College football is officially back, and it started off with a killer matchup. Iowa State faced off against Kansas State in Ireland, and it was truly just nice to have real football back. Now, this wasn't the cleanest game by any stretch of the word, but what a kickoff to what is going to be such an exciting season for college football fans. This game got off to a crazy start. There were multiple turnovers in the first half, and there wasn't even a single completion until about halfway through the first quarter. Now, granted, it was definitely crappy weather for this one, so both of those things are somewhat understandable. Iowa State actually recovered a muffed punt with about 12 minutes to go in the first quarter to get the ball back at the 27-yard line. Now, unfortunately, it didn't pay off because on second and goal, Abu Sama, who fumbled the ball just for it to get recovered by KSU star Austin Romaine. Now, unfortunately, neither of these teams were really able to get much going in the first half as both teams scored just once. Iowa State scored on a 4-play, 49-yard drive that was capped off by a 23-yard touchdown pass from Rocco Becht to Dominic Overby for the first point of the day. Kansas State, however, immediately responded, scoring on a 8-play, 65-yard drive that Avery Johnson ended with a 10-yard scramble to tie it up for the Wildcats. After those two drives, it was really messy for the rest of that first half. Now, luckily, it did start to look a lot better come the second half. Both teams immediately just looked cleaner overall, but only Iowa State was able to punch it in the third, coming on the back of Rocco Becht, who really just came out of the half on fire. The Cyclones scored at the end of the third off an 11-play, 67-yard drive that was capped off a 24-yard touchdown pass to Brett Eskelsen. Just a great ball by Rocco. But again, Kansas State responded with a 5-play, 75-yard drive of their own that ended with a 37-yard wide-open touchdown pass to Jace Brown to tie it up to start the fourth. But Iowa State clapped back with a response of their own and took the lead again after a 34-yard field goal. Iowa State then extended their lead even more with about 6.5 minutes left in the fourth on a 7-yard scramble from Becht to put the Cyclones up 24-14. But again, like they did all game long, Kansas State responded with a big play. Avery Johnson found Jerron Bradley for a 65-yard touchdown pass to cut the lead to 3. Unfortunately, it didn't end up mattering. Iowa State was able to drive down the field and kneel to ultimately put away number 17 ranked Kansas State. And honestly, what a win for the Cyclones. And frankly, both of these teams turned it around to make it a really exciting game to kick off the season. But what should we expect from these guys from here on out? A big benefit for Iowa State is having a guy that understands the system and has been there for 3 years. That's Rocco Becht. Becht has been the starter for the past 2 seasons with pretty similar performances both seasons. He had 3,210 yards and 23 touchdowns to 8 interceptions and rushed for 3 touchdowns as a redshirt freshman. He was the Big 12 Offensive Freshman of the Year as well. And then last season, Becht threw for 3,021 yards and 20 touchdowns to 8 interceptions and rushed for 272 yards and 7 touchdowns. It surely is nice to have him back. And same goes for running backs junior Carson Hansen and Abu Sama. Hansen rushed for 752 yards and 13 touchdowns last season, while Sama had 587 and 2 touchdowns. The real question for the Cyclones is at wide receiver. Becht benefited from 2 guys that had 1,100 yards last season, Jalen Knoll and Jaden Higgins. Both went on to be day 2 picks at the NFL draft. So now it's up to Carson Brown, Eli Green, Brett Eskelsen, and Dominic Overby returning at wide receiver. Brown and Green both had 100 yards last season, and then the 3rd and 4th top wide receivers last season were tight ends, Gabe Burkle and Benjamin Brahmer. Both are returning. The Cyclones do have 2 junior wide receiver transfers that should matter. Chase Sowell, who had 678 yards and 3 touchdowns last season at East Carolina, and Xavier Townsend from UCF. As for the offensive line, there are 3 new starters, but its returning players are redshirt junior Tyler Miller, who returns at tackle, and junior Brendan Black, who returns at guard. Last season, Iowa State had the number 1 pass defense, allowing just 165.6 yards per game. It's a pretty talented secondary, even after losing some key guys. Jeremiah Cooper and Jontez Williams are back in the fold for the Cyclones. Cooper had 48 tackles, 8 passes defended, and 2 interceptions last season as a junior, and Williams had 46 tackles, 5 passes defended, and 4 interceptions as a sophomore. Then add Trey Bill, an FCS transfer from Lindenwood, to the defensive backs. The linebackers in the middle will mostly depend on health. Caleb Bacon missed the entire 2024 season, and Will McLaughlin Mifflin only played 4 games. So Iowa State needs those two to stay on the field. In the trenches, Dominic Orange is a gigantic defensive tackle at 6'4", 325 pounds. Then off the edge, Ikenna Ezeagu had 19 tackles and a sack last season, and he joins 2 transfers. Tamatoa McDonough transferred from Yale, and Vontroy Malone from Tulsa. Matt Campbell has been the head coach at Iowa State since 2016. Last season was arguably the best season for the Cyclones, as they went 9-3 and 8-1 in the Big 12 with a Fiesta Bowl win over Oregon and finished number 9 in the AP poll. He has 7 winning seasons and has played in 7 bowl games with 3 wins. As for last season, Iowa State made the Big 12 championship and it didn't go well. Number 15 Arizona State dominated and won 45-19. The Cyclones did have a good regular season and even started off 7-0 with a win against number 20 Iowa, which was wild and ended up being a game-winning 54-yard field goal. And then to start November, Iowa State lost back-to-back 23-22 versus Texas Tech and 45-36 on the road to Kansas. On November 30th, the Cyclones did beat number 24 Kansas State 29-21 to close out the regular season. So they made the Pop-Tarts Bowl, and with 56 seconds remaining, Rocco Becht scored on a 4th and goal to ultimately beat number 13 Miami 42-41. And if you remember, that was the game when Cam Ward broke the Division I record for career passing touchdowns and then sat out in the second half. It was arguably the best season in Iowa State history, considering that it won 11 games for the first time ever. The main guy to watch on Kansas State is, of course, Avery Johnson. He was the backup to Will Howard as a true freshman, then started the Pop-Tarts Bowl, beating number 18 NC State 28-19. Johnson ended up throwing 2 touchdowns and rushing for 1 in the matchup. Then he took over as the full-time starter last season and played well, throwing for 2,712 yards, 25 touchdowns, and an interception, while rushing for 605 yards and 7 touchdowns. He has pretty high expectations coming into year 2, and luckily for him, there are some good weapons around him to watch. Jace Brown was the top wide receiver for the Wildcats last season as a sophomore with 823 yards and 5 touchdowns. He was good as a freshman too, and should even be better now. Tight end Garrett Oakley had 5 touchdowns to tie Brown with the team lead. Then Kansas State does have 2 transfer wide receivers that are going to start, junior Jerron Tibbs from Purdue and senior Jerron Bradley from Boston College. At running back, you might even recognize named Dylan Edwards. He was at Kansas State last season and rushed for 546 yards and 5 touchdowns, but before that, he was at Colorado in 2023 as a freshman. The offensive line was good last season, but there are 2 new transfers there, JB Nelson at right guard from Penn State and Terrence Enos Jr. from Pitt. Then the stud on the defensive side of the ball for the Wildcats is absolutely Austin Romaine. He was second team All Big 12 last season after he had 96 tackles, 2 sacks, and 3 forced fumbles. The starters on the defense are all pretty much returning guys outside of Quay Moss, an FCS transfer from West Alabama. VJ Payne is a beast senior safety who had 64 tackles and 2 picks last season. Then Desmond Purnell had linebacker, had 4 sacks last season. Shitty Obiizor had 3.5 at defensive end. Chris Kleiman enters his 7th season at head coach for Kansas State, and he's made 4 bowl games during his tenure and is 2-2. His best season was definitely in 2022 when the Wildcats went 10-4 and were ranked as high as number 11 in the AP poll and played in the Sugar Bowl, but lost to Alabama 45-20. As for last season, Kansas State was pretty successful again. The Wildcats started off 7-1 and 4-1 in the Big 12 with a win against number 20 Arizona, but things fell apart a bit after that. The only loss before that had only come to BYU on the road, but then they lost 3 of 4 to end the regular season, including on the road to number 18 Iowa State. Kansas State finished 9-4 for the second straight season and went 5-2 in conference play before playing in the Rate Bowl, a 44-41 win over Rutgers. The Big 12 truly is just a fun conference right now. Arizona State won the Big 12 last season after being picked to finish dead last in the preseason, but then the Sun Devils made the college football playoff and played a double overtime classic against Texas, but lost 39-31. Arizona State was 11-3 and returns a lot of players, including quarterback Sam Levitt. They are the clear favorite, but Iowa State, Colorado, and BYU all won 7 conference games last season. Iowa State has Rocco Becht, but lost some weapons. BYU went 11-2 and are starting true freshman quarterback Bear Bachmeier to start the season. That leaves Colorado, who lost both Shedeur Sanders and Heisman winner Travis Hunter. Now, Deion Sanders is still the coach there and has some options at quarterback, including Liberty transfer Salter and 5-star true freshman Julian Lewis. Those are the clear top programs from 2024, but there are some usual suspects who could definitely make some noise. Texas Tech, Kansas State, TCU, Utah, and Baylor are just a few other teams that could be making some noise this season.